So here's the thing about parables. As Jesus used them, they were, of course, spoken, not read. As such, their impact needed to be immediate, their basic meaning immediately accessible. But when we have the luxury to linger with them, we see they were also designed to invite a deeper look. They invite some freedom of imagination as we engage with them. They invite a deeper listening. Jesus himself exhorts, "Let anyone with ears to hear listen." Now, listening takes time, it takes effort. Good listening demands an openness to insights that take us beyond our initial impressions or preconceived notions. And so I want to attend to Jesus' exhortation to listen, to really listen. Here are a few things that I heard as I pondered this parable this past week. The first thing I noticed was the sower, this sower extravagantly flinging the seed with wild abandon. No careful meting out of a limited supply. No meticulous placing of each seed just so. Here we are given an image of God, the generous one, lavishly offering to the world at large a plenitude of God's rich blessings, fall where they may. Here we have an image of Jesus offering unrestrained to all and sundry the good news of God's kingdom living, far less concerned with where his message might fall than with his fervent desire to simply have that message freely flung to everyone. The second thing that understandably jumped out at me was, of course, the description of the different soil. If we are meant to see ourselves as the soil upon which the seed lands, I began to wonder, what if rather than hearing it as a judgment about some people being this kind of soil and some people being that, what if instead we were to recognize that each of us at various times and in various circumstances carries within us this whole range of terrain? Sometimes we are less than receptive to the life-giving word that God so yearns to bestow upon us, to plant deep within us. These seeds, these life-giving words, this very essence of God, may land on us at a time when we are hardened, like the seed falling on the impenetrably trodden path, when we might have heard a God-given truth, but haven't really taken it into our beings. When we might, through pride or fear or just plain stubbornness, have created a barrier to a word of life, so that it had no chance to take root and transform our thinking, never mind our very lives. These seeds, these life-giving words, this very essence of God, may land on us at a time when, like the seed unable to take root in the shallow soil of the rocky ground, we have found ourselves at first on fire for some holy cause, only to have our enthusiasm wane over time or evade us when the going gets tough. Or at a time we might have imagined a glorious spiritual high would surely hold us in good stead, only to find ourselves folding when some aspect of our faith is challenged, whether by another person or by a difficult life circumstance. These seeds, these life-giving words, this very essence of God, may land on us at a time when, to use Eugene Peterson's phrasings, weeds of worry and illusions about getting more and wanting everything under the sun strangle what was heard and nothing comes of it. at a time when we have bought into the deception, the mirage that more of this or more of that will actually satisfy our souls. Or at a time when we have become so overcome with anxiety that we have lost sight of God's providential care for us. Jesus knows that we can never thrive in these soils, whether hard-packed or rocky or thorny. He knows that real life cannot be found by settling into these less than terrains. Since here, as always, Jesus looks upon us with compassion, we must as well. So what if rather than admonishing ourselves for landing in the wrong soil, we would instead allow these less than experiences to alert us to our urgent need to move towards a different, a truly life-giving way of being, to move towards something far richer, far more abundant, that is always at hand, right there beneath our feet, the terrain of God soil. Here we have soil so infused with God's presence that it will nourish and nurture, it will support and sustain us at the deepest level, come what may. This, in fact, is the crescendo to which the whole parable has been building. But as for what was sown on good soil, Jesus says, this is the one who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and yields, in one case 100-fold, in another 60, and in another 30. As the seed, the word, God's essence, takes root in us within this rich terrain of God's soil, we ourselves become the seed, the word, the bearer of God's essence. And not in some paltry, minimal way, but in a profusion of abundance, abundance that bears fruit 30, 60, 100-fold. A profusion of abundance that is there not only for ourselves, but has us partnering with God to nourish and nurture, to support and sustain the life of the world. What then is our part in landing ourselves in this God soil? In the parable, the seeds fall randomly hither and yon, but with us, it doesn't need to be so. We can influence and even determine what takes root in us by intentionally cultivating a soil that is as receptive as possible to those gospel seeds of life-giving words, to that very essence of God. We might do so by immersing ourselves in some inspirational reading or poetry or music or art. We might seek new ways to enliven and enrich our prayer life. We might carve out a time for meditation. Have you eased yourself yet into any of our own Cheryl McPherson's guided meditations that come our way every week in the newsletter and on our website? We might also find inspiration in spiritual mentors who have cultivated a life resonant with the Creator's presence. I have recently discovered one in the person of Richard Wagamese, the Canadian Ojibwe author and storyteller. Listen, really listen, to this excerpt from his shimmering book of meditations called Embers. At dawn each day, I creep from my bedroom down the hall to the kitchen, where I set my tea to brew and then move to the living room to wait. In the immaculate silence, I watch the world unfurl from shadow. I listen to the sounds of birds the wind along the eaves, the creak of floorboards and joists and rafters in this small house I call my home. When the tea is ready, I cradle the cup in my palms and inhale the scent of lavender. I place the cup on the living room table. Then I rise to retrieve the bundle that holds the sacred articles of my ceremonial life. I open it and remove my smudging bowl, my eagle wing fan, my rattle, and the 4 sacred medicines of my people: sage, sweetgrass, tobacco, and cedar. I put small pinches of each together in the smudging bowl, which I set upon the table. I close my eyes and breathe for a few moments. Then I light the medicines, using a wooden match, and I waft the smoke around and over my head and my heart and my body with the eagle wing fan. When I am finished, I set the fan on the table too. There are certain spiritually oriented books I read from each morning. I lift the books from the couch beside me and read them in turn. Then I place the books on the table as well. I close my eyes and consider what the readings have to tell me that day. When I'm ready, I settle deeper into the burgeoning pool of quietude, and when I feel calm and centered and at peace, I say a prayer of gratitude for all the blessings that are present in my life. I ask to be guided through the day with the memory of this sacred time, this prayer, the smell of these medicines in the air, and the peace and calm in my heart. I pick up the role Creator has asked me to play in this reality. Everything I have come to know and rely upon as centering, spiritual, real, and valid has its place on that table in my living room. The table is like my life, dented, scarred, battered, and worn, but rich and full nevertheless, and singing its histories. In that way, mornings themselves have become my table. Enveloped by Ojibwe ceremony, protocol, and ritual, ringed by strong words on faith, love, resilience, mindfulness, and calm, I reclaim myself each morning. I walk out into the world in a position of balance, ready to do what Creator asks of me that day. Wow. There's a cultivation of God's soil if I ever saw it. What a way to start each day. What a way to walk through the entirety of each day. So may we find ways to cultivate an inner life deeply attentive to Creator's presence, for the sake of our own dear selves, and for the well-being of those around us, as we indeed partner with God in nourishing and nurturing, supporting and sustaining the life of the world. May it be so. Amen.